But first, as I mentioned, now we're diving into a panel discussion with 9B Collective, and they're the first Black-owned concept art studio in America. And what their quest is to get a more inclusivity into the entertainment landscape in front of the camera and behind the camera. And their artists are working on things for HBO, for Netflix, for Marvel, for Pixar, for ILM, all the greats. And I can already see them in the corner of my eye. I can see Dunnar sitting right there, and I see the guys sitting on the screen as well, and they are ready to go. So enough of me, and please give it up for 9B Collective. Art Department.
So, hi everyone. This is, we're at the Playground World Tour. It's 30 in the morning here, and we're having a great panel with good friends, Phil Boutin and Michael. Yeah, guys, take it over. Yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Philip Boutet, and I am a co-founder of 9B, along with Michael Wandi and our other co-founder, actor Aldous Hodge. And our primary focus for starting this company was to really make sure that we're diving in and being inclusive. So we want to make sure that we are, diversifying Hollywood in a way to where people's stories are being told, and that the artists specifically behind the scenes are able to show that inclusivity by telling their stories and using their art as the primary focus.
My name is Michael Wandi. Along with what Phil just mentioned, one of the big things that we want to push is the educational component when it comes to 9B, spreading the word that concept art is a thing, because something we've noticed is amongst the community or where we're even from in general, the majority of Black people don't really know that concept art is a thing. And we're also thinking about how can we educate parents on allowing them to, or even having them push their children into the art instead of trying to deter them from the arts.
Great. So take it all back. What was when did this idea start then?
There was the Concept Art Association, which was started by Nicole Herman and Rachel Meinerding. They do a monthly drink and draw where everybody would get together in a bar or a winery or whatever, and there would be a model, and it would be themed, and the artists would come and they'd sit and they would drink and they would draw type deal. Standard, right? So they asked us to do that for Black History Month in 2020. So in February, we got together and we had this kind of, historic drink and draw where all these different, specifically Black creatives came together in one place in downtown LA, and it was amazing. It was live action artists, animation, video games. We had some producers, some directors, but it was really kind of the first time that we have felt that sense of community where everyone was in the same place. So it was people that we knew of and we all knew of each other, but we're never in the same place or never working in the same place. So one of the things that we noticed when talking to artists there was specifically they all had a similar, story. I work at a video game company. There's 300 employees. There's only 2 or 3 Black people, and we never get to work together on the same project. Yeah. So it'd be like that type of deal. So what we realized within that moment was that there was a strong sense of need for community, but also that we were all, it wasn't that we weren't represented, it's that we're spread out and we feel isolated in our own way. So that kind of led us to saying, you know what, we need to start this company. But the first thing that we thought was, Michael can tell you more, was that we just thought maybe we would do more community things. Like we would do more like, let's do more drink and draws. And then of course, in March, we had lockdown and the whole world shut down. Yeah. So that kind of then made us, it was a blessing because what it did is it made us think bigger. So we said, okay, we don't have to just be confined to just doing drink and draws. Let's start a company to where we can actually funnel our resources together and then provide a way for artists all over the world, especially artists of color, to be represented behind the scenes so that we can tell stories.
Nice.
He said it. He said it too well.
Yeah, he said it.
That's pretty much.
Finished
That's
it.
pretty much what happened. The end.
Yeah.
No. That was one of the big aspects. Is we were originally thinking about it as a community, and so, like he said, we were thinking about drinking draws. We were thinking about going to inner city and just like speaking to the children and things like that. But then we kind of thought about it, and we're like, okay, well, you know what? Like, I get work that I can't take a lot of the times, and I usually kind of sift it out. He gets work that he can't take, and he usually sifts it out. And we're like, well, why don't we just make a company and then encompass all of the other things and aspects that we were just mentioning into a company?
Right.
And so it just kind of made sense, and it just started working from there.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at your work, it's all amazing and top quality. So for sure, combining it all together, it makes sense. And I think also, like, looking from my perspective, coming into this industry 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought this was possible. And be here now, and then all of a sudden we're talking about this in the industry, and it's also like very vocal as well. It's not like this company is started and we don't really tell why it started. So you guys are pretty vocal with it. I'm pretty happy about that as well. If you had to tell us how do you see like 5 to 10 years with this company? What do you want to gain with this?
I want to say, I think it's primarily for us. I think that there's a great need to solve a problem. There is a there's a need for community to make sure that the artists feel like there's a place for them to feel safe and to grow and to learn, while also providing them visibility, right?
Yeah.
Where people can come and look for you, as opposed to saying like, we don't know if there's people of color or artists that we can hire. Like, there's no real excuse for it.
No.
And then also, I think that it's our main goal, especially with what Mike was saying, was education, meaning that we don't want to just go back. A primary lapse or gap in education is everyone goes and they talk to high school kids and above. So they talk to high school and college. The primary thing that will solve a lot of the issue is creating more artists by getting them early. We're talking about kindergarten, elementary school,
Exactly.
showing those kids that art is an actual career, but also one of the key things that we've also talked about is making sure that we're educating their parents, right? Because the parents are the ones that support you. So if the parents know that these opportunities are here and what kind of training is involved, if they can come to the events like this and like see that, or if they can do online schools or whatever it is, those kids now have a broad world ahead of them to where they understand that art is a career, and then maybe there'll be more people involved as we go down the line, and there won't be so much of a big fall off.
Right.
So I can see us doing a lot of events that are like that to make sure that we're kind of solving that pipeline problem, and then also making sure that we are working on projects that we believe in.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not only projects that we believe in, but projects that we want to see, as in recreating IPs. A lot of the times we know people who have, great ideas and things like that, but they don't have the connections to actually bring them to life. And so with what we have concept artists, we have storyboard artists, we have all kinds of creatives down the pipeline, and we can in turn eventually create our own IPs to push out to the public. And that way we're taking control of the voice rather than expecting someone else to tell our stories, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the big aspects that we're looking forward to filling too.
Yeah, it's funny because if I look at it a couple of years ago, and when people were talking about this more inclusion in the industry, even if it's film, games, whatever, and I wasn't really aware of that until I saw Jordan Peele's Get Out. And then I was like, this is so fresh, even though the plot isn't that unique. But it's because it's from a different perspective. All of a sudden, the movie looks different, and we have a fresh perspective, right?
Right.
So kind of so it's crazy. But when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense why at this point of this industry, like some things feel outdated, is because we've only seen it from one perspective, from one viewpoint. So kind of you guys starting this and branching out, it kind of gives us more opportunities of coming up with creative solutions instead of kind of going the same direction.
Right.
It's difficult because even when it's from different perspectives, you just nailed it on the head. Even when it's from a different perspective, it's still from the same perspective.
Yeah.
So the people that are in charge, or the people that are in power, aren't the people a lot of the times that are visually represented on screen or the story that's being told. So the shift in the industry is happening now, whereas if we're saying we're telling, a Southeast Asian story, then you better have Southeast Asian people behind the scenes helping to tell that story. Yeah. It's no longer okay to just visually represent it and not have that voice, because what people are noticing, even just if you just base it on money, what we're noticing is that people will invest when they feel like something is genuine and authentic. That's what we're starting. So people want specificity. They're saying, I want to feel the way that I feel when I go to my market or when I lived in that town. And they can tell when it's done incorrectly. Like, even if it's all visually there, there's the little things that make a difference for everyone, for all of our cultures. There's little moments, just maybe the way you pronounce a name or the way you talk to someone or the way you gesture. All of our cultures have something like that that's unique and genuine to them, and we need to start seeing that come out in our entertainment. And the only way to have that is to have those people in positions of power to be able to put that forward.
Yeah, I think a great example for that is watching the movie Soul. It's the scene that everyone kind of mentions. It's the barbershop scene, right? And having grown up with that experience, once I saw that, I was like, oh damn, like that's really accurate. That's real, and it allowed me to fall into the movie even more, as opposed to other movies. I've seen something just as simple as what a kid has in his room, and I'm like, that's not really that accurate. No. And it completely just destroys my suspension of disbelief. Yeah. So that's one of those things where, as Phil mentioned, like, we want to make sure that everyone is represented and represented well and accurately. And that way, even as far as like, when it comes to the visual side of things, if we can control that, then we can help change the whole landscape.
Right. Because right. I think if we like, let's take the film industry, right? If we look back 25, 30 years ago, and when I see when I see movies from the 80s, and then I see like the representation of Russian people, Arab people, then you kind of see that these movies are specifically made for white dominant American audiences, because they don't know how an Arab behaves, so it doesn't matter, right? But around this time with social media and everything, you can't do that, and then I think it's better because we kind of run out of steam with stuff like that,
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy to think that some of those movies in the 80s even got created. Like, I looked back at a few and I was like, ooh, it's getting kind of hot here. So I could definitely see that. I think, like, also, to be honest, Hollywood, I'm sure, sees the money in it now. With things like Black Panther, for example, they took a chance, and the movie was one of their highest grossing films. Yeah. And, though there's some things that are a little off, like, for the most part, just having that different view, different lens, it helped a lot. And people wanted to see that. Yeah. So the money is there, and I feel like all sides really win at the end of the day.
True. And I think, for Black Panther, for me, it actually doesn't matter what I think of the film, because for me, it's like, when I see a young black kid or whatever, just looking at the poster and feeling like I could be that's more important. And I think Black Panther did start that. So I am kind of happy to see, once that movie came out, you kind of see like, all right, this dude got the role for playing, look at all this. He's also playing, like, what's his name?
Hawkman.
Hawkman. Yeah. How is it? How did you guys come in contact with Aldis? How did you guys go from Drink and Draw to working with Aldis Hodge?
So Aldis has been a really good friend of mine for a very long time. I've known him since we were kids. So it's been one of those ones. I was actually a child actor from the age of about like 3 until like 17 or so. So I kind of grew up in film and then transitioned my path into wanting to do more art, specifically because of the conversation that we're talking about right now, which is, as I came to becoming more of a teen actor, I noticed that all of the roles that I was being offered were negative. They were all gang members. They were all violent. They were all like, oh, your mom is addicted to crack, and you have a, like, I was just like, what is this? I mean, like, really just awful every single one. a point where every single time I went to my audition, I was just like pissed off, you know? So I was just like, I have to try and figure this out. And somewhere in between all of that, I remember meeting Aldis, and we became really good friends because he likes to make watches. And he's been doing this, like, when I say he's been doing this since I've known him, since he was like young. Had a sketchbook, and he still has the same sketchbook. It's got binding tape on it and all that, but he would just sit and draw watches, and he wanted to create watches. And so I was like one of the first people that actually sat with him to talk to him about drawing and about not making like too dark lines too quickly and not committing and trying to figure out how to sketch and stuff. So he kind of entered back into the equation. I was talking to him because we had a project that we were trying to develop. And so when me and Mike were talking about the company, I had told Aldis about it, and he was like, well, I want to like sign me up. I want to help out. I want to create content. I want to be able to do this. This seems like a really good thing. So we just all kind of just combined forces to kind of link up. And we're all like-minded in the sense of like where we want to see the changes in the industry. Aldis is a big proponent of making sure that he's verbal about certain things, and trying to, eloquently put things in a way to where people can understand them, but also understanding that there needs to be change. So it just really was a nice dynamic between us where we all just kind of knew that we were going in the same direction, but then we all try to hit different parts of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's great, man. I kind of, I always want to hear when somebody tells me that they started a company, and I kind of see like the energy between them. You can always tell if it's working or not, where the focus is. It's the same for concept art. When I go to workshops and everything, I always tell people, when you focus on just the money, you're not going to get good. But when you focus on getting good, the payment is going to come by itself.
Correct. And that's something that I have to add, that for our company specifically, we've always we're learning, and it's business, right? But for the thing that I've been very adamant about not losing focus about is that our main goal is to solve this problem of diversity. I want to make sure that that's the primary goal. It's not money, it's not fame, it's not any of those things. It's the artwork and making sure that our artists are able to get hired and be hired for their potential, and be hired for all of the things that are normally kind of reserved outside of them. We want to make sure that those are things that we can provide. And so that's been the key thing. And one of the other key things that we've decided to, or that we talked about, it was a very simple goal. If we all got together and we took a group photo, I want our group photo to look like no other studio out there. And right now, sadly, that's pretty easy. It's pretty easy.
Right? Yeah.
It's like literally so easy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. When I started, I don't know if you guys had that feeling. I never felt home in this industry because I felt like I don't know anybody else who looks like me, who does this work, So kind of, it's crazy how much this grew within like 5-6 years with all these workshops and Lightbox and everything. So I can't imagine how where 9B Collective will be in like 5 to 10 years. I feel like the more diversity, the more creative the industry would be. And, just you guys doing this just shows that there are at least people who are conscious of this and wants to change.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like kind of jumping off of what you said, I know I had that struggle as well, like coming up in the industry. I would oftentimes look around and say, like, who looks like me, like just to see if it was possible. And I know that other people have gone through that too. And, I was pretty lucky to have friends who actually did art, Reggie and Brandon, who I've grown up with since I was like 12, 11.
Wow.
But, for the most part, I was like, okay, well, who does concept art? Like, are there any around? And it took me years. Even going to art school, I would always be the only Black kid, and, in the class, and a lot of the times kind of hearing things like, oh, you didn't draw that. Why didn't I draw that? Having those weird conversations. And so it's just like, at least 9B, at the basic, at its foundation, it could be just a beacon, right? It can allow other people to see like, oh, I know where I'm looking, instead of having to take 4 to 5, 6, 7 years to simply find someone who looks like you.
Yeah.
And that beacon, it can push people way further than they ever thought they can go, because now they have something to look to. They have mentors who they can reach out to. things like that. And I feel like that's just like, that's everything. That's something I really wish I
Yeah.
had,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's super simple. If you've ever, especially since we're talking to a lot of artists too, I don't know if a lot of artists learn this way. I know that I have, especially for new technology, right? For a lot of different things, you only need to be able to see that it's possible, and then you can learn to do it. Meaning that I may not understand every part of ZBrush, but if Dinar showed me one little part of it and I saw it happen, then I can learn it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing that we're trying to do here, which is it's representation is so important. And people say it, and it's like, like the little fun words that everybody likes to use, but representation really is important. Just being able to see it means that you know that you can either create it or do it. And when it lacks, it really does put a hold on your creativity or where you think you can go or your self-worth or how much you think you can learn or just where you think you can be in life. So a beacon is a good word. We've talked about it being like a funnel of creativity. All of those different things is just making sure that people can see that we're here and that there's a place for them, and that right out the gate, they don't have to wonder if there are other creators that are like them. We want to get rid of that feeling of isolation.
Right.
Right. Something that we've noticed also, going back to school, I've seen it time and time again where people will go to school, they'll be really good while they're in school, but those will be the people who don't get hired. And so they struggle for like years on end, and then that passion, that fire kind of dies. And then by the time they finally get a job, that passion is only a shell of what it once was.
True.
It's really tough to hold on to that. So one of those things as well is like being able to, once again, be that funnel of creativity, being that beacon, and also going out and looking for these creatives to make sure that this fire doesn't die out.
Yeah.
There's so much potential, especially sometime right out of school. There's so much potential that is just unfounded just because the people aren't looking for them.
And the amount of the amount of times I've had where I just come into a class and I'm usually like the only brown person, and like after a while, like I notice that everybody's kind of hesitant to talk to me for some reason. And then once they talk to me, they notice I'm just a regular guy, and then they're like, you're different than the others.
Oh my
I
God.
swear to
Yes.
God, man, I've heard that so much.
So clearly
You're
this
different
happens
than you.
internationally too.
Worldwide problem? Got it. Awesome. Yeah.
Right. It's like, I'm not different. You just never met another one before.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
never talked to another one.
It's
So,
insane, man. It's not saying people like that are racist. I'm more saying like it just to show that we think that online, when we look at social media and everything, that we are connected, we know about everything. No, man, you have to have a conversation with that person to actually see what it means to him.
Exactly.
You have to experience, you have to have conversations, and ultimately, I've grown up in the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry has a very big responsibility because it's what, like in some areas, especially places that aren't as diverse, the only time they see other people that don't look like themselves is usually through entertainment or the media, the news, whatever it is, right? So entertainment has a real big responsibility of showing a broad range. If you even just focus on one culture, it's not just showing a stereotype of that culture, it's showing all the pieces of it. So it's showing like a massive breadth of like, there's this type of Black person, but there's also this type of Black person. There's this, like there's so many different types of people. Then we get to a point where it's not people saying like, oh, you're one of the good ones or you're special. And I think something else that we've also said is we've been really hard on people of color in terms of saying like, don't accept that. You're not special. You're just in a different situation or different circumstances. Like it's a backhanded compliment. And it's basically you need to tell them like, no, you just don't know enough people that look like me because I'm not special. There's tons of people that are like me. It's like, it's that type of deal. So it's just making sure that people are kind of corrected. And also it's just like, there's a lot of ignorance out there about people in general. And I think that people really do need to step outside of themselves and experience, the beauty of other people's cultures and actually, uncenter themselves to be able to take in new information.
Yeah,
exactly. That's why, like, kind of saying what we're saying is just like, no amount of reading and research can take place of lived experience. And so we see that a lot with film and design, or film writing and design, where no, if you haven't lived it, you just can't. It's just can't really hit that mark.
Yeah.
And that's something that we just really want to change. Like, we need to change. And at this point, we have the numbers to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at this paper, there's a couple of things that I wanted to ask. How were your parents in this whole concept art thing?
Mike, you go first. My story about this is like very cookie cutter and not interesting. Mike's story is much better.
Dude, well, I've been drawing since I was 3, right? Which is rare for the area that I come from. Everyone draws, but no one keeps going, and I kept going. But I always had a little voice in my ear, my dad, where he was basically like, yo, you got to be a lawyer or a doctor. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that's cute, right? But I kept drawing, and I didn't really know much. And by the time I really was like, yeah, Dad, like, I think I really want to go into art, he looked like he had a heart attack. And he's like, oh, no, son. No, son. I'm like, what do you mean, no? I was like, I want to draw. He was like, you can draw in the medical field. You can draw in the medical field. You don't have to. Please. It was almost like it was like a shame to him. Like, I was like dishonoring my family a little bit. And he's like, please, you have to go into the medical field or be a lawyer. There's no other choice. And I really was like going into the medical field, and I enjoyed that too. But I lost my passion for drawing for about like 10 years. And it was really at the behest of my friends, Reggie and Brandon, that I kept mentioning earlier, that they kind of pulled me back into it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just really fortunate. But when I applied to art school, I had to apply behind my dad's back. And the day I was about to leave, that's when I told him. I was like, hey, Dad, I'm going to art school. He's like, you are what? I was like, I'm going to art school. He's like, oh, no. Where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going to San Francisco. He's like, oh, no, please, son, please. He's like, son, you are going to school to be a professional homeless person. And I was like, not the way that works. And he's like having this long talk with me. And eventually he was like, okay, please, if you are going to do this, please, I give you my blessing. Just be really good at it and don't embarrass me. I was like, all right. But that extra kind of lit a fire under me where I was like, all right, well, now I can't go in and fail. So I made sure I had no plan B or anything. It was just like plan A, and you make plan A happen. That's the only way to make it happen. So my mom was supportive, but my dad is my dad.
Yeah.
You know, he's the one who was going to support with money and stuff like that, which he didn't really support that much with that either. But he gave me his blessing, and that was all I needed. So
Exactly.
it was a struggle though, because I was really going around in circles for about 6 years, just trying to tackle the medical side of things,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of switch, kind of go a complete 180 and be like, you know what? F medical. I want to do art. It's like, that was tough.
Do you feel like you gained anything from the medical side where,
Oh, definitely. A lot of things. I think like one of the big things was anatomy. I've been studying anatomy for so long. Like, for artists, we only really need to know the big muscles, right? Like the big bones, things like that. But when I was drawing in the beginning, especially, I would sit there and just like, oh, that's the bicep brachii. Oh, it doesn't twist like that. The ulna and the radius. It's like ridiculous. I feel like it gave me a blessing and it gave me a curse, because it made me overly technical at one point, and extremely analytical. But where it blessed me was, you have to do a lot of studying in medical school, or to even just like even touching the base of medical school. And so that was one of the things when I took that same energy and applied it to art, it helped so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world, honestly. Right. Some of the education, some of the knowledge that I've gotten from that experience and just knowing what hard work was. Because with art, it's kind of one of those things that's kind of elusive. Like, what is hard work?
Yeah.
Hard work is, if you can't apply it, or if you can't equate it to anything else, another experience that you've lived, then it's kind of, you're just drawing for fun, right? But going to med school, that's really hard. Studying for those things are extremely difficult. So knowing, like, if it's not that hard, then I'm not studying hard enough.
Yeah.
So it kind of helped a lot, actually. So I can't be too mad at my dad, but
I mean, honestly, even if I had to explain to anybody from my age, even what concept art means, like, you explain to them, and their face is just like this for like a couple of minutes, and then like an
Right.
hour later, they come back to you once they figured it out. Oh wait, what? You do this? Wow, what?
Mhm.
So can you imagine for the older generation?
Oh
Right? What the
God,
fuck is concept art, man?
my dad
No,
still doesn't know
They're
what I
never
do.
gonna get it.
no.
My
They'll
dad still
they'll
doesn't
never
No.
get it.
No, they'll
They'll
never get
never
it.
get it.
It's
The
funny, man.
closest thing he got to was like animating. He's like, "Oh, so you are
Yeah,
animator?" He
cartoon.
doesn't even know what an animator is, though. So he really knows his companies. And when he heard Marvel, he's like, "Oh, you are working for Marvel?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, so you
Finally.
that is
Yeah.
okay, cool.
That's
I
the
got
trick,
you."
man. That's the trick. I swear to God. If you want to convince your parents, work on something they know.
Exactly.
If I come to LA or something, I'm not telling my parents I'm going to Santa Monica. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to Hollywood. Then it
Exactly.
works,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I've
It took me
learned
so
this.
long to figure that out.
Yeah.
It took me a while to just start to recognize that no matter how much I explained what I'm doing to my family, like even just like my my cousins and all of them, that they'll never quite understand it. Or if I could spend an hour talking to them and saying, so I work with the costume designer and we come up with all these ideas, and then they'll kind of be like dead silent for a little bit, and then like they'll be blinking, and then their eyes will be going, they'll be like, Phil designed the whole entire Black Panther. Like, I'm just like, no, that's not what I said. And then that's what they say. So I'm just like, okay, whatever,
Fine.
fine.
Yeah. I mean Black Panther.
I made the whole thing all by myself. It's just
Oh,
me.
man.
Yeah.
So
One of the coolest moments was my dad seeing my name in the credits one time, and he didn't even know what the movie was. He was just like, "Oh, the Uwandi name is in the credits."
oh man,
Oh.
so sweet.
He was like, "I go from Africa to Hollywood." Like, he
Wow.
felt like he won. I was like, "Okay, cool." Like,
Yeah,
you-
man.
you got
And
it.
for sure he won. For sure,
Right.
man. Right?
Did.
I
Yep,
mean,
yep.
it's honestly, man, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I noticed that people who come from struggle, from
Mhm.
early ages, every small bit that you get, you're already, like you're happy to get that.
Right.
Whereas if you grew up where, it's a safe zone and you've never had like thoughts of, we don't have any food or whatever, you
Mhm.
kind of you never stop growing because you just don't know what the worth is that you're taking.
Exactly. That's way too accurate. Yeah, I've seen that a lot too, where it's easy to rest on your laurels, as opposed to if you've had to come from the bottom, you understand what that pain is like to essentially not have,
Hmm.
and you just never want to go back there ever again.
Yeah.
So you'll do kind of everything in your power to make sure that you never have to go that far.
There's a saying where they say every immigrant is an artist because you have to start from nothing to something.
Ooh, bars.
Yeah. So-
I like.
Yeah, man. It's so parent support. It was for sure there. How important is for you your cultural background?
I feel like for me, it's really important. Phil knows it's very important, because I try and apply it to as many things as possible, and just also recognizing my own ignorance.
Yeah.
Right, like
Yeah, man.
I'm not always designing Black characters. I'm not always designing African characters, and so understanding how Hollywood depicts us, I now also apply that same level of like, oh, you know what? I don't know everything. I apply that to every other culture as well.
It's exactly what you said. With that ignorance, I was also in that. For some reason, I was always like drawing these white, big ass dude and sexy white girls and stuff.
Right.
But it's
We all have this. I think it's like one of those things. I think my mom sat me down really early at one point when she realized that I really liked drawing, and she had that same conversation. She's like, "How come you don't ever draw any black people?" And I literally, it was like a whole moment, like usual suspects, like the coffee mug drops, and I'm just like, I don't ever draw black people, like ever. Like, I'm just drawing what I see all the time. I'm drawing what is presented back to me.
Yeah.
And so I made sure I changed it, but she caught me really early on. It was like, if you're going to do this, you're going to represent people, everyone. And I think that that's something I know from Mike, that's been something that's very important to him. What's important to me has also been I want representation, because there's two different schools, right? Like definitely, like there's like, in terms of just by nature, I've very much so, I have a Western sensibility, more on the like African American side. And then Mike is definitely more on the African side. And we try to kind of find the correspondence and the bridges, but having conversation also helps us know what things are lacking or what things need to be put forth. Black Panther taught me that my knowledge, or my general knowledge of Africa in general, is trash, like absolute trash. Like just, it's not something that is represented to me or presented to me in a way to where I could even understand things like nuances of the fact that like Africa is this like massive place with all these different cultures and all these different languages and all these different types of foods. And you don't look at it as a monolith where it's just like Africa. It's like, no, it's like, there's all these different segmented things that you can really get into, and it's daunting. At the same time, that's been my favorite part, is to learn, like to actually start to learn the differences and to learn how to respect things and to learn like, why do they do this? Why do they put this in their hair? What do those beads mean? What's the color mean? Like, what does this word mean? Like, so it's like in asking questions, that in itself, I feel like that could be like a lifelong study for me, which is I could just keep going down the path until I feel like I actually understand it. And I want that to be open for the world to be able to also do that same thing, where people take the time to really appreciate different things. And that could be just universal, right? That's the goal.
Exactly. Just another knife in the skill set. Like when it comes to like learning how to design, right? Like in general, like we've always been seeing Western design for so long, and a few instances came up where we had to design for like say an African project or something along those lines, and what ends up happening is recognizing that our first approach is very westernized, and having to think like, well, what does that look like on the Eastern side? What does that look like on the African side? Is the sensibility of this thing being high tech and simplified, is that something that they do as well, or is that something that we just think for ourselves? And a lot of times what ends up happening is it's just what we do here, and we're trying to Western wash a lot of other cultures.
It
wasn't enough. Oh, go ahead, Dinar.
I mean, when I saw Black Panther and I saw the reaction of, people around me, and then everybody was like, oh my God, it's so different, it's so new, it's so creative. I'm like, well, it's not that different. It's just the people did their research. And if you actually knew about it, you can clearly tell that in Africa, there's a lot of different cultures, right? So there's a lot to take from. So apparently we didn't do that beforehand. You know what I mean?
No. Well, we didn't do it before, but also what Mike hears me say this a lot is what's important to me is the authentic nature of things, but also it's not being conceptually lazy. And what I mean by not being conceptual, like as concept artists, right? It's not being conceptually lazy. Like right now I can go on Pinterest or I can go on Google and I can search a tribe. And then for me, especially from a Western lens, it's like Africa is like you're out in the middle of nothing and it's like dirt and there's like people with loincloths and like body painting, right? So it's just that. But like it's one of those things where then when you do that, if you say, okay, this is a civilization, like Wakanda is a place that hasn't been colonized, it has not been touched by anyone else. It is the richest nation. They have the highest technology. What does that look like? That's an awesome conceptual problem to solve, meaning saying they have complex textiles. They have all the money in the world. They have all the resources. So then it doesn't become like, oh, let me take this person in a loincloth and put them on a hover bike. It's like, no, that's lazy. What are they wearing? What do they actually like? Who are they? Like, you know what I mean?
Who are they?
Like, who are they? That's the thing we want to say. Like, don't be lazy, because now what you're doing is you have to actually learn. Like, you have to say, okay, this tribe does this thing and they dress, like this way, but how would they dress if they had all the money in the world? Meaning like now it's like, okay, they've got their scarification, but maybe they have clothes on that highlight their scarification. Like it's stuff like that where it's like you have to actually think about it. And I think that it's easier for people to think about it for other cultures because we're bombarded with them all the time. Like, so it's the difference between saying like, hey, what does Thor's homeland look like? And everyone's like, oh yeah, they get all excited.
Yeah.
They know so much about it, right? And then if you say, what does Wakanda look like? People are like, dirt? Like they just can't.
Yeah, interesting, man. I've never thought about it like that. Yeah.
It's a different thing. It's like you really need to take it. So we have to learn. We have to say like, okay, like when we look at something, you say, okay, how do they, something simple. Like I'm trying to think about like how do they tie a knot? Is it different than the way we tie a knot? It's those little details, and then how do you take that little detail and expand it out conceptually?
Yeah.
It's like it's the small thing to the bigger thing, as opposed to just saying like, let's just draw these people and they all have on African masks. It's like, no, that's not enough.
Right.
No.
It's designing with expectations rather than designing based on facts.
Correct.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah, I think also, it's looking just at the film industry itself and the short amount of time that you have to design the film and also bring it out, it's just crazy. It's almost to a level where it's unrealistic. You know what I mean? Like for me, I feel like it's like you go to a restaurant, you get the best meal, and then once you're done, you just ran off instead of kind of digesting it, taking it to you, right?
That's actually exactly what it's like.
Like calm the
That's
hell
so
down,
true.
man. Let's kind of research this and see how everything works. Like
Savor it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, marinate
But that's
on it.
why it's interesting. It's like so interesting, and it's kind of a miracle anytime a movie is actually good.
Yeah.
Based on these things, because there's so many departments that are working together but not working together and making things kind of merge together, and it's just rare. But it's a miracle every time something actually ends up being good.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things I use this example often and get teased for it, but I'm gonna go for it. Team Beyonce, Team Beehive. Basically, when she did her Coachella performance, right? One of the things that I really enjoyed about it was the fact that she just put out art from a very Black perspective about HBCUs, right? Homecoming, right? That was what it was called. She did Homecoming. She put it out and she didn't explain it. Meaning she didn't say, this is why we dance this way. This is why we move this way. This is why our music sounds this way. It just was unapologetic and she put it out. And what that causes is that if you are uneducated about this thing, why is this cool? Why are they doing that? You, as the spectator, have to look it up.
Mhm.
You have to educate yourself. And I think that you have to adapt, right? So what ends up happening a lot of the times is I feel like what we do is we're constantly, at least I know, as speaking for myself as a Black male in the US, we have to adapt all the time around other people. We're constantly adapting and trying to fit in, right? And I like the fact that this forces people to do it in reverse, meaning I'm not making this for you. And if you want it to be for you, you are completely welcome. Come on in. We welcome you, but learn.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where we are for everyone creatively and culturally, as we are in a place where it's like, you want to tell me a story and half the time they're singing in another language and I don't understand what's going on. Great.
Right.
Because then I can still feel the emotion. If it has to be subtitled, awesome. I want to hear your story from your perspective, and I want to appreciate it, respect it, and I want to savor it. I want to slow down and actually learn something outside of myself, and I want to respect it. I want to revere it. I want to give it its time. And one of the things that I can say, this is going to be a super fancy thing to say, but I'll say it. I got a chance when I was working on A Wrinkle in Time to meet Oprah. Oh my. And Oprah said something. It's the thing. I'm going to say that.
Oprah.
Yeah. I'm just shooting for the stars here. Oprah said something to me that I'll never forget, which is she said, I have little moments where she was looking me dead in the eye. She doesn't falter. She's not looking off to the side. She's not looking at who in here is more important. She's focused on you. She talks to you and she makes that moment count because she says, 10 minutes from now, I'll be in another moment and I have to make that moment count. And I never quite forgot that. And I think that if you do that culturally, it's giving people the respect to say, I'm not looking anywhere else. I'm not darting off. I'm not trying to say, oh, this culture is kind of like the rainforest, so let's just do that. Like, I'm saying, this is what it is, and I respect you, I see you, and I recognize you, and I'm here. That's kind of what we want.
Yeah, I think you rounded out perfectly, man. We're just
Pretty
exactly on time. Dude, we probably could, like, usually this is almost at the start of the conversation for me, but for sure, man, this has been a great conversation with you. Like, we obviously have talked about this many times before, but so happy we could do this on Playgrounds as well. So
Okay.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming onto this show and sharing us your experience in this industry, and hopefully in 5 to 10 years we'll see more Yunnings coming here, and telling us that they've been inspired by you guys, and so I'm super happy that you guys could make it. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'll see you guys on the next talk. Thank you.